Hello and welcome to another episode of Friday with the Chakontas. I am Mr. Chakonta,
And I'm Mrs. Chakonta.
and we're back with our series on FWTC Reacts. Yeah,
Yeah, we are back. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing and liking our videos or our podcast. We really, really appreciate it. And if you're new, welcome. I hope you like this episode. Please feel free to check out all the other podcasts. And if you do like it, don't forget to subscribe.
you mean all the other episodes
Yeah, all the other episodes.
on the podcast?
Okay, yes.
Okay, yeah.
What my husband said.
So, yes, so what do we have for today?
All right, I'll get straight into it. And it goes, I need your help with a family issue that I have.
Mhm.
I grew up in a very happy and united family until my dad died about 8 years ago. I'm the last born and only girl in a family of 5. All my brothers are married and only I who is still staying with my mom who is 71 years old. The eldest brother in the family is working in another city where he stays with his family, while the second is working within where I'm staying at the moment. And the third born is doing business within as well. We're all in the same country. My dad left us a family property, a farm where my mom is currently living with me. During his time, my dad used to do chicken rearing and pigs, as well as after he died, I decided to continue as well, just so that we could have some income with my mom. The issue we have is my brothers have been telling my mom to sell the family property and buy a sizable house for us since the family is now small. My mom is not for the idea. For her, it's a legacy left by her husband and must be respected. I am also not for the idea, not that because I'm living here, but I think dad will not be happy if we were to sell it. This has brought a lot of tension and division amongst us such that we are barely talking. It all started with the eldest in the family who has been pushing mom to sell the property, and then the other 2 brothers as well. I engaged the fourth born who does not want anything to do with it, so he doesn't even want to talk about it. A few months ago, the wife to our eldest brother came to visit mom, and during the course of the chat, she asked mom why she does not want to sell the farm. She also insisted that perhaps mom should consider selling it. My mother replied by telling her that she has no business engaging herself in that issue as she's not part of this. This angered my brother, the husband, who feels mom disrespected his wife, and since then he has not been talking to mom or I. There is no longer any peace in our family just over this issue, and we are all totally broken. At some point, I even engaged my uncles to help resolve the issue, but whenever my uncles request for a meeting with my brothers, they either do not show up or just decide to snap. Looking at my mother's age and pressure she's being subjected to, I'm really worried. My brothers are claiming that they all have share in that family property and have been asking for my father's will so we know what is written. Is this the best way of claiming shares? Sure, I really get drained. Is this the way of claiming the shares? I'm really drained.
Okay. Yeah.
Ooh, no, that was a long read, babe. I'll leave it to you to start.
Um, yeah, it's in from the beginning when we see a story like that. I think the best thing when there are disputes in a family, we have to look at what is the written will for the deceased. And I think when we're looking at it from let's say a Zambian culture, there is the law that stipulates if there's no written will, there's a law stipulates how certain things should be shared. And then so the way the law stipulates it is like everybody seems to have a claim towards it. And I think they have to come to an agreement of how they should come to a point of if they have to sell it, how they're going to split the proceeds. So this is probably, I think, the challenge. The challenge here is that maybe a will was not written, and if a will was not written, then these disputes become an issue. If a will is written, then it's very easy for the dispute to go away, especially if they're not coming to a point of where they're agreeing. And it's a lot, to be honest, because one of the things that happened during a situation where like the patriarch of the family dies we seem like there's a void, and then because there's that void in the family, everybody's trying to find different ways of how to address certain situations. Maybe on the guy's side, they're basically thinking and saying, "Mom, you're getting old. This is a big place. Why don't you come and just say we'll sell it, and then you get a smaller place?" But for her, she's also looking at it from another angle of saying, "This is something I saw from the beginning. Let's say if there's an attachment value. Maybe even before they were born, this was something that they maybe built together, regardless if maybe I think maybe if the husband puts so much money, but she also put some investment into it through the aspect of him building that farm and everything like that. And I think for her, she also feels, no, I'm comfortable and all that stuff. But again, I think here it's about how do they discuss their needs and why they're addressing this situation. Because somebody will look at it from another angle. Why are you trying to sell it? Because me and my husband built this. But the other people are looking and saying, no, we're not just trying to sell it, but we're actually saying, we're trying to think about you, get something smaller, and so that we can all benefit from this. But again, here, this is a problem on the other side is that people would not understand. That's why there's a clash here. For her, she'll always look at the storyline of how the struggle of how they made this situation. So for her, she'll look at it, oh, this is when we bought this. This is how it was. We had to sleep this way. We had to do A, B, C, D. So for her storyline is always, I think about the struggle, how we came to this position, how we did that. So her storyline is built with so many emotions as they're going on. And then these people who've come in, the children, come into a situation, maybe they found it maybe halfway. And for them, they're only seeing half the story. And because they're seeing half the story, for them, they don't have that value, emotional value towards it. And because they're also having other children, they're also saying, okay, for me, my importance at the moment is I have my children and I need to take care of my children. And I think that is probably the situation. But the problem here, I think, is I don't know what the split is. Like sometimes on the, let's say Zambian law, it seems as if the split is mainly 50%. The children get 50% of the property, and the wife will get about 20. And if they're parents or anything like that, and I think the other one will be split. The other 30 is split between the parents.
I really can't
but I
remember.
don't know. So like right now, it's if like let's say she's 70, so it's maybe like 50-50. So probably she's got the highest say in the situation, and that 50-50 is split between the brothers and sisters.
Children, yeah.
Yes. So like let's say if all of them come together, then she's got the outright right. But now because she's also got the youngest on the side, I don't know. I don't know if the youngest. I don't think she's saying what her position is.
No, she didn't. She said she thinks that they shouldn't sell it.
So it looks
not because but then people think that she's worried that people think she shouldn't sell it because she lives there.
Yeah, but then that becomes an issue.
But she doesn't want to sell because she knows her dad wouldn't be happy.
Yeah, so that's another issue. So it looks as if the votes are against the guys. Because if it's like 50-50, she's got the 50 split. I don't know how the 30 is split, to be honest, if it goes to the children or goes to the wife. I don't know how. Let's assume it goes to the wife.
What 30?
Like ideally Zambian law, she owns 30% of whatever monetary aspect, or 20. I don't know if it's 20 or 30%. And the 10% is either given to family, like if they've got relatives, if the man has a father or a mother.
Okay.
But the 50% is given to the children, and that's split between how many children they have.
Yeah, I get you.
But so she's got the single highest block.
Yeah.
Which is that stuff. But I don't know if there are no parents. I don't know where that
goes.
Yeah. I think there's a law aspect of how that. What's this? Let's assume that it goes to her.
Yeah.
And because of that, then she's got probably the biggest voting share.
Yeah.
In the whole situation. So it becomes now there's a stalemate because she's basically saying she does not want to do anything, but the other people are now upset about it
Mm-hmm.
because they're not seeing any value of how they can get something from it if somebody's staying there, which is hard. Yeah, I'll just end there, but I would just like to hear what you have to say.
It's a tough one, isn't it? There's a lot of elements in this.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me it's more about the take home. Like, I think I've seen that these things become things that bring a lot of tension.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we don't talk a lot about just in general as people is death.
Mm-hmm.
And it just reminds me, whenever these things come about, the power of a will that we
Yeah.
don't realize.
Mm-hmm.
Even like it doesn't matter how old you are, as long as you're able to have the capacity to make a decision, it really helps to reduce a lot of this,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know what's in people's hearts
Mm-hmm.
after you go.
Mm-hmm.
And some people just want to grab, some people want to prolong your legacy, some people they don't care. So you've got you've kind of got a bit of this in this scenario where you've got the youngest son who doesn't, he's just like, I don't want to talk about it, like, you guys argue it out.
Yeah.
We don't really know what they want to do with the finances from the property, whether it's for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It suggests that they want their shares. And I think this is, I don't know, it's just giving me a thought of, as we start to grow and build our families, like, how do we raise our children? How do we raise them in these scenarios? Like, these are things that I think we should be talking about, as hard as they are, as to a point where, because these are adults.
Yeah.
So these are not, if you have a baby, you have a teenager, like, these are quite hard conversations to have.
Mm-hmm.
But these are adults.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are conversations that can be had. Like, I'm not saying, they did anything wrong. It's just making me reflect on my life.
Yeah.
And making me think that I think these are really good conversations going forward to have.
Mm-hmm.
You and I are having these conversations even before we have children. And when we have children, when they're old enough for us to have these conversations and say, should your father die? Should your mother die?
Mm-hmm.
This is what is going to happen.
Yeah.
And this is based on, because I think the law is there, like, as you said, in the absence of a will.
The law is there when the absence on the will and when there's a dispute.
Yeah. So if these things are, if we have, well, I don't know how you dispute a will. I think these are really good things to look into, even for us, because you can think you've written a will and it's stamped, and then obviously you have disputes on the will. But I think that holds a lot of power, because wills are not just done, they're done in the presence of a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes wills can be kept private. Sometimes they can be shared. I think if they're shared, it reduces the stress in the future, but brings the stress in the present. But it's just things that we don't talk about. It's just things that we don't do. But I think these are really conversations that come up all the time at funerals when somebody dies, and they bring a lot of tension.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's just reminding me to say, you know what, Ruth, these are conversations to be had with your husband. These are conversations to be had with your children when they're old enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that sometimes children, I don't know where they get this thing from. They they sometimes think, because I'm getting a lot of entitlement from these young men.
Yeah.
I'm like, who told you this is your farm just because your father has died? Your mother is still alive. So I feel like there is, especially when the man dies, the head of the home dies, there is this notion that everything now needs to be split in those percentages that you have addressed. And for me, which is why I think that comes into play where there's no will. And I think even us as children should remember that when one of our parents has died, that doesn't mean that now we're entitled to all these other things. No, you still have a father or you still have a mother who will have the final say. Unless there's a reason why they cannot have that final say. Unless there's a reason, where they're unwell and they can't make that decision, or those are complicated matters where now you have to look at wills. You have to look at, okay, can they really not make a decision? Is there what is wrong? But as far as I am concerned, I don't really think there should now be a matter of discussion about, oh, my share, your share. I think that's up to the discretion of the mother or the father.
Are you saying in your opinion?
Yes, in my opinion.
Okay.
Well, there is a law in different countries to help with such, because that's why. So should there be any problems, then that's why we go to the law.
Yeah.
But I think there is freedom in being able to have a will.
Yeah.
And I think that will is good, because there are times where, your parents when parents are involved, it becomes a bit more tricky.
Yeah.
In this situation, we're assuming that the parents might not, because they might have mothers who are in their late 80s, or or fathers in the man might have a mum and a dad, although we don't know how old he was. So in this situation, she has not painted a picture of there being grandparents. But if that was the case, there are times where you might have wanted to leave something to your father or a mother, and that's what, or brothers and sisters. It just brings a lot of problems and a lot of tension. But yes, in my opinion, I think these are conversations that it's hard to talk about death, but it's something that we all encounter and will encounter. And I think it's something that we do need to talk about, because honestly, I do feel like some of these kids, this is not the only scenario. I've seen it a lot where there's just a lot of entitlement. Where children feel like, now my father is gone, we now need to share the house. No, their mother is there.
I agree with what you're saying, but I'm saying based on the law, this is maybe where I think the entitlement comes from.
Yeah, but the law, but I think what we need to look at was the law created as a law, or was it created sounds a bit like the law, or was it created in the absence of a will? Which one? I think the key thing is which one overpowers. Does the will overpower the law? Yeah. Because it makes sense where if there is no will, that there will be a law to guide. Yeah, but if there is a will, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's something I need to look into. If there is a will, then the law will not stand.
I agree with that. But my question, that's why they're asking.
Who's asking?
The brothers. You read at the part where it's saying, let's see the will. So we can see
I saw that.
our entitlement. Because there's some people maybe think they're entitled, but the will is basically stipulating and saying, when I die, this remains with my wife. So for that, they've got no argument at all. Yeah. The problem is here, the entitlement comes in because they feel the will has not stipulated that. And they feel like she's automatically taking the whole power when they feel they're entitled to something. This
is why I'm not in their favor at the moment. I usually try and be partial, but I'm not in their favor, because if she wants to stay on the farm, you're just giving her stress. You've got your own lives. You are married there. Like, I don't know, maybe they're struggling and so the money could be useful. But she said no. And they're not respecting that, to the problem that now it's bringing tension in the house. I mean, what's going on? She's not 71 is not old. Yes, you're old, but you're not old. You know what I mean? Like she's still doing what she needs to do. Yeah. Who knows? She could still have another 30 years ahead of her. Yeah. This is her home. This is her farm with her husband. And like you said, we don't know the history. But now why should these children of mine be coming in my house, be telling me I need to sell my house because my husband's gone?
No, but Ruthie, I think that's what I'm saying. You're using emotions again, like I've told you before. This
Let
is
me
we have
use
to.
emotions,
Yes,
babe, because I
I
think it
agree.
also helps to understand the situation.
Yeah.
Because if I can use you and I as an
Yeah.
example, in many years to come,
Yeah.
we've got a house, and then our kids start bringing problems, telling me because daddy is gone, we now need to sell the house.
Mhm.
And I'm just looking at them like, we have raised you to now grow up and be independent. And yes, if they're struggling, I think it's a legitimate thing to bring to the table.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad conversation. It's a really good conversation. The
Mhm.
problem I'm having is it seems like they're really trying to force her. It's bringing so much tension that they're not talking.
Mhm.
So that's my issue. My issue is that the conversation is a good conversation and probably might be in her best interest. They might be saying, look, you're quite, you're becoming of age. Your bones are not the same, and I don't see why you need to work the farm. Why don't we sell it?
Mhm.
And you get a smaller property, and you will have money for the rest of your life that you need for your bills. You can buy a house. You don't even need to be working the farm. Like, why are you basically like, because us, when we look at our parents, sometimes we're like, why are you working so hard when you don't need to? Sometimes our parents like to work.
Yeah.
And we're like, you don't need to work. Why don't you've got a massive farm that you could sell and live comfortably for the rest of your life. We're not even asking for your money because we don't know. That might be the conversation. They might not actually be wanting the money.
Yeah.
They might just be saying you don't need to be farming and stressing yourself.
I agree with what you're trying to say, but I think the problem now comes here. We're assuming there's no will. And
Yeah.
because the issue there's no will, the things that now are stipulated in the law that come about. But we have to look at it like you're saying, maybe from a biblical perspective, we see that look, from a biblical perspective, they need to find a way of how to take care of their mother. Now the responsibility comes from that side of they need to take care of their mother and they need to be charitable and everything. But I think it now comes here where like maybe they feel the best way to take care of their mother is selling the property and finding ways of doing that. But again, I also see on the other side of where the biblical side, what there's no biblical side is the anger that's coming out from her rejection from this being pursued. It's now bringing a level of where people are angry and they're saying, we're not gonna talk. That's not biblical.
But it's funny you've said that because actually it's made me think like, what if, because we don't know full details, what if they send her money? There's this, we have a culture where we send money to our parents. And what if they do support her and they're saying, look, there's no need for us to support you like this. Like, we're also struggling. If you can sell the property and make money yourself.
That's true. But there's some, like you're saying, like maybe children are entitled. There are also some parents who are like, look, that's your duty. You're supposed to send me money. This has got nothing to do with you. This is my house.
Then I'm also, as an adult child, I will also make grounds and say, no, mom, I don't think you're making me work and struggle here when there's actually a legitimate way that we can sort this out.
But
or they could even sell half of it.
Yeah. They can't sell half.
They can sell half a farm because it suggests there's a house and a farm to it.
Yeah, maybe half
they
a farm.
They can sell some part of it.
Yeah, but like if you're saying half a house, no. But I'm saying like what I'm trying to say is that I agree with you on the sense of like based on what we know, like some people will send money and everything, and some parents will be actually entitled and say, you know what, you're my children. This is the reason why I had you guys. And send me money because what's this? But then you're like, okay, if I send you money, what are you doing with the property that has been left? Why can't you just sell it? And the problem is maybe the men in the who are now making the decisions, like let's say from our culture side, the men who are making the decision are saying, look, this is just not feasible. And for her, she's basically now they're saying you're being stubborn on this. But the other side where maybe I don't appreciate is probably the wife of the first one.
Oh, tell me about that. Like, where do you get the courage to do that? Like, come on, know your place.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, but I think that's why maybe that's why maybe on her side she feels maybe these men are being influenced by these women.
Oh, that's where you were coming from.
And then she's coming from a side of, well, where are you coming from? You just came maybe 10 years ago, and now you're basically coming to talk to me about this house.
Yeah, because some others think as if women want, like she wants to benefit from something that she shouldn't be benefiting from.
Yes. But this is now the problem where we're saying that the problem here is the will has not been reviewed.
Yeah.
And because the will has not reviewed, and because the will only comes in a situation when there's dispute. Because I also know there's some other families who just basically say, look, Mom, you work so hard with Dad, we're not even going to take anything.
Yeah.
They just give everything to the mother based on the aspect of what they've seen, the way the mother and the father had in their relationship. There's some people who feel they're entitled. And I think it also comes to another side of where, especially when somebody feels they're not living in a particular way, and their life is a bit hard.
Yeah.
And they feel this can be an opportunity to at least help me out.
Yeah.
And I think that is now where the challenge is.
No, definitely.
And I think this is where I feel the Zambian law has also been very, how can I say that? It's fair, I'll probably say.
No, it's a good division.
Yeah.
I in one way, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is, because it's anything that's for all doesn't always work in all circumstances.
Yeah.
Because imagine a situation where you have estranged parents and it's just you, and they now come to benefit. So like different scenarios work. So it's a law that works for all. It doesn't matter black, white, orange, red, green, like in
what do
any
you mean
situation.
By estranged parents?
So like, for example, where parents are not involved, you've had issues or they were never involved from the very beginning, but then they now come in and make and gain from it. So let's say in the scenario of you and I, let's say we've been working so hard, we've built God knows whatever earthly properties, riches, and then we have arguments, we have toxic relationships with left, right, and center. But then the will doesn't care about the sort of relationship that you have.
Yeah, but the will is supposed to be fair in that sense. The will does not look at the dynamics.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying it works. It's good, but it might not work for all, because there are certain situations. Even the kids have neglected you. They're making it in the world, but they don't even help or even send a penny. And the mom, there's just one house left, but the mom is living in this one small house, and where if that house is sold, she's where's she gonna go? Because she won't be able to have to buy another property. But the kids are going to benefit from that, but they have enough.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Like, it doesn't look, it applies to all, but not in, it's not favorable in all situations.
It depends on what you look at favorability, because favorability can look at the sense of everybody's getting a stake of what you owned, but you can. I agree with you. Let me finish. But I agree on what you're saying in the sense of where you're saying that favorability can also be can have a balance on one side and a disadvantage on the other side based on people's circumstances. But what they're talking about is favorability is based on that person's relationship with whatever people he's related with gets a piece of what he was doing.
Yeah.
And that's what favorability is. If we look at it and extend it to the sides of these people are working, these whatever, I think that is not talking about that.
It's okay. It's a good shout.
It's a good thing in that sense. So I think the other side where it normally used to be, it was once, let's say a man dies, his brothers and sisters will just come and grab the property and leave the woman without anything. The good thing is here that at least she's got a 20 or 30% stake that the law is basically saying that you're entitled to. But everybody will look at it and say, maybe other people will say, look, you've only been married for 2 years or 3 years. Why do you need to get a 30% stake? So that's why people will be looking at and saying favorability.
Yeah, no, that's
so if
true.
we look at favorability on the sense is, it's fair in the sense of looking and saying, regardless of how long you've been related to somebody, regardless of anything like that, everybody has a stake
Yeah.
on this situation. That's if there is no will.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. Was
Yeah.
there a will? And that's what they'll ask, especially if you
Yeah.
go to court. And they're trying to be as favorable as
No.
possible.
No, that's true.
So that's why we're saying it's fair to all parties.
Yeah.
In the sense of everybody at least has a stake. People argue and say I need a more stake or anything like that, but that's a whole other debate.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree with you. I think it is fair. It is fair. It is fair. So yeah, I'm in agreement with you. But I wanted. Oh, did you have anything else to say?
No. Go ahead.
Well, there are two parts. I think. Well, can we go back to the daughter-in-law though?
Yeah.
Because I don't think we touched that enough.
Yeah.
I'm just perplexed. I mean, the thing is, I can understand how maybe she thought she was entitled to have a conversation with them. But the thing is, something that's already bringing tension. I think there are times where, and then now she feels disrespected because the mother told her this was not her place. And to be honest, yes, we do say, we all become one and we're one family.
Yeah.
And she should, so that means it isn't her place to talk. But it just sounded like, from the way it's written, sounded inappropriate. Like it's something that she could have avoided tension. That could have been avoided by just not. There are times where even though you have a right, sometimes it's better not to say anything.
Yeah, based on wisdom or something like that. Yeah. And but now it's also brought an extra aspect of tension.
Yeah, exactly. Because now the husband thinks that the mom disrespected her, and now he wants her to. I don't know if he wants her to
that's
apologize.
What I'm saying. This
it's
is
like there's already problems. It would have been better because look, it's you, the daughter-in-law, and the son. So and there are many sons, and they've all been trying to talk to her. So you thought that, I don't know. I can understand. Maybe they have a good relationship, and she thought bringing it up might be helpful. But hey, there's a lot of things that happen, and the way, I think the in-law tension can be quite real. Yeah.
One of the things I learned, especially like when we're getting married, somebody told me that the hardest conversation that people normally have is during weddings and when somebody has died.
Yeah, I agree.
These are the hardest conversations where people have. This is where you see tensions in everybody wanting to go a particular way. And I think this also just shows that as people, if we're looking at it from a biblical side, we're saying, look, as people, we want to benefit in something. Our aspect of, I don't know if it's a sinful nature, but it's just something of where we want to feel as if we're represented in a particular way. And through that, we see now our ego comes out. And ego comes out, especially like, let's say if it's weddings, you see like from our context, since weddings are basically family events, we now want to see like families now start to impose and saying, this is how it needs to go. And then in death, we also now see there's also the same thing where some families are now saying they want to feel as if their contribution to this person is something that they feel entitled to. Some people feel like, because I'm the child, I'm entitled. Because I'm the wife, I'm entitled. Because I'm the mother or the father, I'm entitled to something. Everybody's connected to this person who they've lost. And I think maybe we don't have a very robust aspect of understanding dynamics of how death now plays in the aspects of our relationships. And I think when we look at it probably from a biblical perspective and saying, you know what, death is something that, especially for the believer, it's an issue where it will bring sorrow, but we also have to look at it from an aspect of, for the believer, it's actually something where they are now going into a new reality. And which is actually, sometimes we don't fully comprehend it, but it's a good thing. Where they're going is a far much better place than where we are at the moment. And the infighting is now based on the sin that we are all wrestling with, because now sin has now come in, and sin is now ruling us to the point of where we are our emotions are now leading us to an aspect of where we are saying certain things and we want certain things,
Mm.
and we feel even certain aspects of where we are behaving is not in love.
Yeah.
And I think it also goes to the narrative of what that lady was saying. We were very close family. So
Mm.
what has the closeness? The closeness has now been disrupted because they've all experienced something
Mm-hmm.
together, and now they're also dealing with this something in different ways.
Yeah.
And now this is now spilling into issues now, the decisions they have to make based on the aftermath of the situation that they've all experienced. And I
Mm-hmm.
think there also needs to be space for everybody to grieve. I don't know how long this has been.
Yeah, that's true.
Everybody to grieve in the best possible way before they have to now start making these decisions.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes we go into overdrive of we need to do this, A, B, C, D, and all that stuff. And in that aspect of going through overdrive of trying to address all the situations now, some people are getting offended through that.
Yeah.
And I think there has to be a proper way of understanding what's the best way of us to do whatever we have to do.
No, I definitely agree with you. I think there's an element of I agree with you completely of we rush things sometimes. And I think making such decisions right afterwards is I think we need to use time to our aid. So like you said, we don't know when this, it could have been 3 weeks, could have been 3 months, could have been 3 years, but time to our aids. Because like you said, you are already going through your own emotions of the grief, and you don't know what might be driving this. Might be them feeling I need, might be different things. Might be somebody saying, no, I want to gain something that, I feel that my father left me. I want to hold on to something that I feel that my husband left me. And all of them might actually all be in the rightful way, wanting something to hold on to.
Yeah.
But also when people are grieving, a lot of, like you said, a lot of things can be said, and then now you ruin relationships for the future.
But also on the other side, I think maybe sometimes also some people, because they're grieving, it's like it's tunnel vision. So whatever you've said to me, I'm not even going to forgive you. In the sense of maybe I may have said something wrong. And because I'm grieving and I'm just feeling like, you know what, I think that was very insensitive. And because of that, we break a relationship. I think we also need to understand this was probably a process of where people are saying certain things. We're in a process of the grief, and we need to be able to forgive, especially as believers. If we have received forgiveness, we should also extend forgiveness in whatever aspect we have. Whoever has wronged us.
Yeah.
So these are opportunities for us to show grace, continue to love one another, and continue to be at least in fellowship with each other if we are believers. And I think sometimes we also need to understand on both sides, whatever the situation is, whatever, if the husband has put so much and there's a very sentimental value towards that, we need to understand that as the children. But also the other side, on the mother's side, if your children are daily taking care of you, looking after you, and they're coming and giving you a suggestion that sometimes it may go and touch the aspect of the sentimental aspect, but it's also saying this is a much wiser situation for us, for all of us to benefit, and for you to now go into a position of where we can even help you more.
Yeah.
She needs to also consider that.
Yeah.
Because through that, she's also alienating her children. And I think putting the pressure on the young girl now. Because the other children are just saying, no, we don't want to do anything with that, because tempers have come in too high.
Yeah.
To the point of where people are just saying everyone is feeling disrespected. And I think sometimes as adults, when we're adults, there's a level of where we want so much respect.
Yeah.
And to the point of where even a small thing will just feel disrespected. And through that, it just ruins relationships. But in the end, she's the one who will need the help because she's getting older.
Yeah.
And through that's the situation. So yeah, those are the things. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, having a will is something that I always encourage people to do because it helps out. But also, if there's no will, also there's also aspects of where try to use biblical principles to help you,
Yeah.
and also the law of the land is fair. I
Yeah.
think some people we shouldn't look at it as unfair.
Mm.
The law of the land helps and is in a way of where it tries to address certain things that where there's dispute. And I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes when something like this is happening, we need to test the law of the land
Yeah.
for us to come to a point of where we come into agreement. Although I know the scripture tells us that there's the attitude of taking each other to court and everything like that, that should not be amongst us. We should try as much as possible to address the dispute that is there. And I think this is why that lady is trying to get uncles to come in to speak to what's this, a mediator who can come and at least address the conflict that is there.
Yeah, and I think that's a good idea, but it seems that the men, they don't want to be involved, or tension rise even more, so they're not able to hear the wisdom of other people as well, because it is a good idea for other people to be there and to guide them and to help in such a situation.
Because yeah, those are the things where like it's also good to have other voices than just your voices.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, anything you want to add on?
No, that was my last point and you addressed it.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, so yeah, thank you for listening to our episode on this situation that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
We are thankful for all the support that we get on the other episodes that we've put out, and even the one we're going to get for this one. So thank you very much. As we always say, like, subscribe, and
share,
and also comment as well.
Yes.
And we
let's see what your thoughts are.
Yeah, and we hope and trust that we will meet you again on our next episode.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
Thank you very much. Until next time, take care and God bless.
bye.
Bye bye.